Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Sunday, December 17th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 Bank Shop best bet, as well as my all-access season pass in college hoops, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in college basketball. First up, we see Syracuse and Oregon. This one's going to be a 1 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on the CBS Sports Network, and it's going to be a neutral site game in South Dakota. Now, Syracuse, they've struggled in their step-up games this year, but they have played a really tough schedule, and they played Gonzaga and Tennessee at the neutral sites. They played a true road game against Virginia, played LSU, Georgetown, Cornell, so some solid Power 5 teams and some mid-major schools as well. Syracuse is still a winning record 7-3 this season, and I think that their offense is due for some positive regression going forward. It's a team that's creating pretty good shots. They're just not making those high percentage looks right now consistently. They're ranked 238th in effective field goal percentage, 224th in three-point shooting. Last year, this was actually a really good shooting team, especially from the perimeter. And I know they lost a good amount of production from last year's team, but I think going forward, the Orange offense is going to be a lot sharper. The defense has actually been a positive surprise, in my opinion, for Syracuse. They're forcing turnovers. They're defending the three-point line really well, not taking too many fouls. I just don't know if I trust Oregon to lay this number here. I know Oregon's on a 3-game win streak, but all those games were at home. When we saw them at the neutral site in the last couple of neutral site games against Alabama and Santa Clara, gave up 88 and 99 points in those losses. I don't trust them in a spot like this. I like Syracuse here. I think they win the game outright, but I'm going to take the points with the Orange. Next up, another 1 p.m. Eastern start time. This one between USC and Auburn. This is going to be on ESPN. It's a true home game for Auburn, and they're a big favorite in this game, I think, for good reason. USC is certainly struggling. I don't love to always fade teams when they're down because, usually if it's a solid program like USC, we can find some value on a team like this when they're going through a little bit of a slump, but I don't think so. I mean, this is the first true road game of the season for USC in a really tough building against a really tough team that's looking to, run and gun. Auburn, a very fast-paced team, 38th in the country in average possession length offensively, a team that can put up crooked numbers offensively at any moment. We saw them score 87 against UNC Asheville in a blowout win. Saw them score over 100 points against Indiana in another blowout victory. So they're in great form, and they return home here. Auburn, I just think the much better team on both ends of the court. USC, I do think eventually will be a solid team, but this is a pretty young team. They have a lot of talent, but a lot of it from the recruiting class, and not a great rebounding team on the defensive side. Auburn, very strong front court. Could get a lot of second chance looks in this game, so an already pretty good shooting team with a lot of offensive rebounds sounds pretty deadly to me offensively. I'm going to go with Auburn here and lay the big number at home. Next up, we see Stetson and Omaha. This one's going to be a 2 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, Omaha's a perfect 4-0 straight up at home this season. However, they haven't played a single Division I team at home. They played 4 subdivision opponents, and the rest of their games have either been neutral site games or true road games against some solid Division I teams. We saw them play at TCU. They actually played pretty competitively, in my opinion, in that ball game. They played okay against North Texas. They played at Texas Tech, and they played at Texas A&M Corpus Christi in their most recent game. I think this is a pretty good matchup for Omaha. When you look at Stetson, a team who takes a ton of three-point jumpers, they make them at a pretty good rate, but Omaha has a really good three-point defense so far this season, holding opponents to a 30.8% three-point percentage. That's 78th best in the country. Omaha also does a really good job of getting to the free throw line, which I do think in a game like this matters quite a bit because the Hatters offense doesn't really get to the line much at all. I mean, they're 349th in free throws attempted over field goals attempted, so they're only getting 15.4% of their points from the free throw line. I think Omaha has a big advantage in that facet of the game. And overall, just Stetson, I'm not in love with them on the road. We've seen them lose all 4 of their losses this year away from home. Some bad losses, lost to Chicago State, which looks less, bad because of that outright win for Chicago State against Northwestern, but still, they lost that game by 23 points. They lost to Charlotte by 23 points. In this spot, in a tough place, I'm going to take Omaha here and lay the points. A reasonable number here, but I think the much better team, and a team, like I said, hasn't lost at home yet, and they finally get their first real test at home. So give me the Mavericks here. I'll lay the points. Next up, we see Florida A&M taking on Iowa State. This one's going to be a 6 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on the Big 12 Network. Now, Iowa State's one of the biggest favorites on the board for Sunday's card, and I think for good reason. I think the line's honestly a little bit too light. Iowa State, we're seeing them play their best basketball of the season. They took down DePaul by 19 points, 99-80 on the road. We saw them take down their rivals in Iowa, 90-65 the final score, and then against Prairie View A&M, their last game, 107-56. So Iowa State, a team that blew a second or a first half lead, a double-digit lead in the first half to Texas A&M and lost that game outright back on November 26th, is really focused on playing 40-minute efforts in their last 3 games, and it's just been dominant showings from really the start to finish of all those games. And I expect that here. Florida A&M is in a really tough spot. Give this team credit. They're playing a really tough schedule. They're going to be prepared for SWAC play. We're going to get value on this team in SWAC play. But right now, it's just not the time. I mean, they played Iowa on Saturday, so back-to-back games against a much better team and a really strong defense. Iowa State's rested. I think the Cyclones win this game big, so give me the Cyclones. I'm going to lay the points. And the final game we're going to talk about for Sunday's card of college basketball, it's going to be Washington and Seattle. This game 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, we've taken Washington a few times this season. We took them against the Xavier Musketeers, 74-71 outright win for Washington in that game at the neutral site. And then we took Washington in their last game against Gonzaga as an underdog, a home underdog in that game. Washington won that game outright as well, 78-73. But now, Washington's in its first true road game, and we talked about how Washington, in their game against Gonzaga, doesn't get to host too many teams like Gonzaga in non-conference play, so it was a huge game for the Washington program. Similarly, very much similarly, Seattle doesn't get to host many teams like, Pac-12 teams or a team like Washington very often, especially a regional rival. And this is a huge game for this program. I think a program that's on the rise, a really experienced team, a strong defensive team. They defend the perimeter really well. Good rebounding team defensively. It's important against Washington. They forced some turnovers. They played competitive against San Francisco. It was only a 3-point loss in that game on the road against a really good San Francisco team. So I think Seattle has it in them to compete and potentially win this game outright. And Washington, like I said, first true road game of the season. They played some tough teams this year, but mostly in neutral site or home game environments. This is going to be a really tough building to play in for a program that doesn't get to host many teams like this. I like Seattle in this game. Give me Seattle. I'll take them on the money line at plus money, but I'll take the points as well. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.